The story begins with a young woman named Lena, who grew up in a tiny house at the edge of town. Her family was not just poor, they were struggling to survive. Her father worked long hours at a small workshop, and her mother washed clothes for neighbors just to buy medicine for Lena's younger brother. Every day felt like fighting a losing battle in the first 1 to 5 minutes of the story. The audience sees a powerful moment. Lena comes home one afternoon to find her parents sitting quietly, their eyes full of fear. A letter lies on the Tabala final notice from the landlord. They would be thrown out within a month. This is the hook that the room feels tight, heavy, and silent. Lena's mother tries to smile, pretending everything is fine. But Lena sees the tears she is trying to hide. Her father lowers his head, ashamed he cannot provide more. Lena's brother watches them all, too young to understand the words, rent, and eviction, but old enough to feel the tension. Lena feels like the walls around her are closing in. She wants to help. She wants to save her family. But she has no job, no education, and no opportunities. She feels trapped. That same evening, her mother receives a visit from an old friend who now works as a housekeeper for a wealthy family. This friend quietly tells her that the family she works for has a son named Arvana, young man who lost the ability to walk after an accident years ago. He is kind, educated, and wealthy, but lonely. His mother is searching for someone calm, responsible, and gentle who could be a companion to him. The friend leans closer and whispers the words that instantly change the air in the small living room. They are looking for someone to marry him. Lena's parents remain silent. Almost frozen, the friend continues. Arvin's mother is willing to help the girl's family pay the rent, help with medical bills, and ensure stability if she becomes Arvin's partner. Lena feels her heart drop. Marriage. To a stranger. To a man in a wheelchair. Just to save her family. Her father shakes his head immediately. He doesn't want this for his daughter. But her mother gently touches his hand and reminds him of reality. We can't even keep a roof over our children's heads. Lena listens quietly. She doesn't cry. She doesn't speak. She simply looks around at the peeling paint on their walls, her brother's worn-out shoes, her parents' exhausted faces. She realizes something painful. She is the only one who can save them. That night, she sits outside under the dim streetlight, the world quiet around her. She closes her eyes and whispers to herself, "If this is the price I must pay for my family, then so be it." Before dawn, she makes her decision. Lena tells her parents she will do it. She will marry Arvin. But deep inside her chest, a quiet question begins to grow. What will my life become after this? Little does she know, fate has already started turning its wheels, and nothing will be as she imagined. The next morning, Lena travels to the wealthy family's large home, a place so different it feels like another world. Tall gates, clean paths, flowers that looked like they were cared for every single day. Lena's hands tremble as she enters. Arvin's mother welcomes her with a warm but evaluating smile. She observes Lena's posture, her eyes, her silence. She speaks politely, but with the confidence of someone used to giving orders. Soon, Lena is brought to a spacious room where a young man sits near a window in a wheelchair. Sunlight falls across his lap, making the metal frame shine. This is Arvan. He looks up with a calm expression, almost surprised to see her. His voice is gentle, steady, and he asks simple questions, not about marriage, not about expectations, not about agreements. He asks about her family, her dreams, her worries. This catches Lena off guard. She expected someone cold or distant. Instead, Arvin seems human, thoughtful, quietly observing. Still, the idea of marrying him feels heavy on her shoulders. Arvin notices her nervousness and says, softly, "You don't have to pretend to be comfortable. I know this is not easy for you." Lena looks away. Arvin shares a small piece of his story, how he was once active, how the accident changed his life completely, how people began treating him differently. Then he says something Lena does not expect. "If you decide not to go through with this, I won't be angry. I don't want someone forced into my life." These words surprise her deeply. No one mentioned choice before. By the time she leaves the house that evening, She feels both lighter and more confused. Her parents wait anxiously at home. Her father asks, "Are you sure you want this?" Her mother, with guilt in her eyes, whispers, "We will accept whatever you choose." Lena thinks about Arvanot, his wheelchair. Not his wealth, but the softness in his voice. The sincerity in his questions, the way he didn't pressure her. Finally, she speaks, "I will marry him. Not just for us, but because he didn't treat me like something he bought." Her family holds her hands, grateful yet emotional. But on Lena's wedding night, she begins to sense that Arvan's life holds secrets she was not prepared for. Secrets that will shape the rest of the story. The day of the wedding arrived faster than Lena expected. The sun was bright, but her heart felt cloudy with uncertainty. She stood in front of a small mirror in a modest dressing room the wealthy family had arranged for her. A soft white dress flowed around her, simple but beautiful. Her mother adjusted the veil gently, trying to hide the emotions in her eyes. Her father stood nearby, silent hands trembling slightly as he held a small bouquet. He whispered, "You can still change your mind, Lena. No one will blame you." Lena placed her hand over his. "It's all right. I will walk this path." When she entered the grand hall, she froze for a moment. The place felt unreal: tall ceilings, shimmering lights, soft music filling the air. Guests in beautiful clothes whispered as they watched her walk. Some smiled kindly. Some stared curiously. Others whispered, wondering why a simple girl like her had been chosen for a man of such status. Arvan sat near the front, dressed neatly, a calm dignity around him. When he saw Lena, he smiled, not the smile of a man buying a promise, but of someone grateful she came. The ceremony was short. There were no grand speeches, no dramatic vows, just simple words, a gentle exchange of rings, and quiet applause. Arvan's mother dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief, touched by the moment. After the ceremony, Arvan leaned slightly toward Lena and whispered, "Thank you for standing beside me today. I know this wasn't easy." Lena simply nodded. The reception was filled with music and soft conversation. People moved around the hall, eating, laughing, and congratulating the newly married couple. Lena felt overwhelmed by the attention, but Arvan stayed close, guiding her calmly. Later, they were escorted to Arvan's home, a spacious, peaceful place filled with warm lights and gentle colors. A small room was prepared for Lena, with soft curtains and neatly folded clothes. The atmosphere felt comfortable, not forced. But as the night settled, Lena sensed something unusual. Arvan's room door was slightly open, and she could hear faint sounds, something like quiet footsteps, but uneven, slow, almost rhythmic. She hesitated at her door, confused. She knew he could not walk. She knew his wheelchair stood beside his bed, so what were those sounds? Lena stepped closer, soft enough not to disturb anyone. She peeked through the small opening. The room was dim, lit only by a bedside lamp. Arvan was not in his wheelchair. He was standing leaning on a metal support frame, struggling but determined. Practicing movements slowly, Lena gasped silently. He was holding onto the bars with both hands, shifting his weight one side to the other. His legs trembled, his face tightened in concentration. But he kept going. It was as if he had been hiding this from everyone. Lena quickly stepped back before he could notice. She returned to her room, her heart pounding not out of fear, but confusion. Why was he hiding this from everyone? Why did he tell her nothing? Why would a wealthy family be looking for a companion if Arvan was training to walk again? Thoughts tangled in her mind. Later that night, Arvan knocked softly on her door. "Are you settling in?" he asked, voice gentle. Lena nodded quietly, though her mind was still spinning from what she had seen. He smiled faintly. "If there's anything you need, you can tell me. We will find a way to live this new life together." Slowly, when he turned to leave, she almost blurted out the truth, telling him she saw him standing. But she stopped herself. Something told her he wasn't hiding it out of shame. Something told her the truth was deeper. As the door closed, Lena whispered to herself, "There is something he isn't ready to share." But why? Little did she know, the answer would not just change her understanding of Arvan. It would change her entire life. The next morning, Lena woke earlier than everyone else. She barely slept, her mind replaying the image of Arvin standing on his own, fighting against his own limits. She kept wondering if she had misunderstood something. Perhaps she had seen wrong. Perhaps it was just a short moment of balance, nothing more. But deep in her heart, she knew what she saw. When she walked into the dining room, the smell of warm bread and tea filled the air. Arvin's mother sat at the table, reading silently. She smiled warmly when Lena entered. "Good morning, dear. Sit, please." Lena returned the smile, though her thoughts were far away. A few minutes later, Arvin wheeled himself into the room. His expression was calm, almost to come as if he was hiding his exhaustion. His hands looked slightly strained, his shoulders stiff. Lena watched quietly. She noticed everything now, the faint heaviness in his breathing, the slow movement of his fingers. He must have spent half the night practicing. As breakfast continued, Arvin caught Lena's gaze for a brief moment. His eyes softened, as if he sensed she had seen more than she let on. After the meal, the family maid approached Lena gently. "Arvin's therapy room is being cleaned today. If he needs anything, please let us know." Therapy room. So, it wasn't something new. Not a secret from the world, just something Arvin didn't share easily. Later that day, Lena wandered through the house, curious but careful. She reached a hallway filled with sunlight. At the very end, a door stood slightly open, revealing a spacious room with supportive bars, exercise equipment, and stacks of folded towels. It wasn't hidden. It was simply private. Lena stepped inside slowly. She touched the cold metal bars, imagining Arvin gripping them in the quiet of the night. Each scratch on the metal told a story of effort, of determination, of pain. While she was still in the room, she heard a soft voice behind her. "You found my favorite place." Lena turned. Arvin sat in his wheelchair at the doorway, watching her with gentle curiosity. She hesitated before speaking. "I didn't mean to intrude. I only wanted to understand." Arvin nodded and rolled himself inside the room. He positioned his wheelchair close to the bars, then looked at her. "I guess you saw me last night." Lena froze. She didn't expect him to mention it so openly. Arvin sighed quietly. "I wasn't planning to hide it forever. I just didn't want you to think I'm pretending, or that I made promises I can't keep." Lena took a step closer. "Why didn't you tell me you were training to walk again?" His eyes lowered, thoughtful. "Because I don't know if I ever will. Doctors say maybe, maybe not, and I didn't want you to feel hope or pressure. I want you to live your life here without expecting something that might never happen." Lena listened deeply. His honesty touched her more than she expected. Arvin continued softly. "People think wealth makes life easy, but this is my battle. Every step I try to take feels like lifting mountains. And I didn't want you to marry a man hoping he will one day be different." Lena felt a warmth rise in her chest. For the first time, she saw him not as a rich man, not as someone in a wheelchair, but as a human being carrying a quiet pain. She moved to the bars, placing her hand gently on the metal. "You don't have to hide anything from me. If this is your journey, then I want to understand it." Arvin looked surprised, not because of her words, but because of the sincerity in them. He whispered, "No one has ever said that to me." At that moment, something shifted silently between them. Not love yet, not romance, but trust. A deep, delicate trust that needed time to grow. But fate was not done with them. Just as Lena prepared to leave the therapy room, Arvin said something strange, something that made her pause. "There's something else you should know, but I'm not ready to tell you yet." Her heartbeat quickened. Something else? What could be bigger than this? She turned toward him slowly. "When you're ready," she said softly. Arvin nodded, but that night, Lena would learn something not from Arvin, but from someone else in the house that would change her understanding of everything, and lead the story into its most surprising moment. That evening, Lena wandered through the quiet halls of the house, still thinking about Arvon's words. The idea that he carried more secrets unsettled her. Not because she feared them, but because she didn't know how deeply they might affect their life together. She stepped into the small garden behind the house. A peaceful place, filled with soft lights and gentle wind. Flowers swayed lightly, as the sky turned a shade of gold. Lena often came here to breathe, to think, to adjust to her new world. While she sat on a wooden bench, the housemaid, an older woman named Ramu, removed her slowly. "May I sit with you?" she asked politely. Lena nodded. They sat quietly for a moment before Remia spoke again in a low voice. "You saw him practicing, didn't you?" Lena stiffened slightly. "Yes, last night. I didn't mean to spy, but Remia held up a hand gently. "You don't need to explain. You're his wife now. You will see many things he hides from others." Lena looked down at her hands. "I don't understand why he didn't tell me." Remia smiled softly, her eyes holding years of experience. "Arvin isn't hiding because he distrusts you. He hides because he doesn't want to cause disappointment. He has struggled for years to move his legs again, and each time he made progress, something pushed him back." Lena's brows pinched together. "Something?" Remia paused, choosing her words carefully. "There is a deep worry in this house that no one speaks of, and maybe it is time someone told you." Lena's heart beat quickly. "Please. Tell me." The housemaid finally revealed the truth. Arvin's accident didn't just hurt his legs, it changed his whole body. Some days he has strength. Other days he loses all feeling from the waist down. No one knows when the weakness will hit, or when it will go away. Lena's breath caught. Remia continued gently. "That is why Arvin trains at night. He doesn't want anyone to see the moments when his legs fail him. He doesn't want pity, and he certainly didn't want a new bride to see his lowest moments." Lena felt her chest tighten. "So he doesn't know if he can ever walk again." Remia shook her head. "It's unpredictable. He might stand today and collapse tomorrow. He lives with hope and fear together, every single day." Lena looked toward the house, imagining Arvin alone in that therapy room, struggling in silence. She felt an ache deep inside. An ache not of sadness, but of understanding. Remia placed a gentle hand over Lena's. "He needs support, but he will never ask for it. He will always say he's fine, even when he's breaking on the inside." Lena whispered, "I want to help him, but I don't know how. I don't want to make him feel weak." That, Remia said softly, is the right beginning. Just then, the garden door opened, and Arvin appeared. He looked surprised to see the two of them together. "Is everything all right?" he asked, concern in his voice. Lena stood slowly. "Yes, we were just talking." Arvin studied her face for a moment, perhaps noticing something had changed, though he couldn't tell what. He offered his hand, and Lena walked beside him as he wheeled himself inside. That night, after everyone went to sleep, Lena lay awake for hours. She thought about Arvin's secret struggle, about his unstable condition, about the emotional weight he carried quietly. She realized that everything she assumed about him, his wealth, his calm nature, his strength, was only a small part of the real story. There was a deeper truth beneath it all. And, as if fate wanted to test her resolve, something unexpected happened the next morning. Lena was in the hallway when she heard a sudden thud from Arvin's room. A heavy, alarming sound. Her heart jumped. She ran toward the sound, fear rising inside her. When she pushed the door open, she froze. Arvin lay on the floor beside his wheelchair, his breathing heavy, his face pale. But what frightened Lena even more was the look in his eyes. A look she had never seen before. Not pain, not embarrassment, but fear, real, deep fear. And she understood instantly. Fate was about to show her the other plans, waiting for them. Asterisk. Lena rushed to Arvin's side the moment she saw him on the floor. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear anything else. She knelt beside him, her hands shaking as she gently touched his shoulder. "Can you hear me?" she whispered. He opened his eyes slowly, his breathing uneven. "I'm all right," he said, though it was clear he wasn't. His voice trembled with the weight of a truth he could no longer hide. Lena quickly called for help, and members of the household came running. Together, they lifted Arvin back into his wheelchair. His mother appeared moments later, fear etched into every line of her face. "What happened?" she asked, voice trembling. Arvin pressed his lips together, avoiding everyone's gaze. "I just slipped," he said softly. But Lena knew the truth. She had seen the fear in his eyes, fear not of falling, but of losing something he had fought so hard for. After everyone left the room, Lena stayed behind. She closed the door gently and sat on a chair across from him. Neither spoke at first. Finally, Arvin looked up at her with tired eyes. "You saw too much today," he said quietly. Lena shook her head. "I didn't see too much. I saw the truth, and you don't have to face it alone." His eyes softened, then lowered. "I didn't want to worry you." "You're my husband," Lena said, her voice gentle but firm. "Your worries are not a burden. They're a part of the life we share." Arvin closed his eyes, as though her words carried more comfort than he expected. For a long moment, he simply breathed. Then slowly he spoke again. "There's something you should know," he said. "Something I never told anyone outside this house." Lena listened without interrupting. "My condition. It gets worse with stress. Some days, my legs feel alive. Some days, they feel like stone. Last night, I pushed myself too far trying to train." Lena nodded softly. "You want to walk again so much, but you're hurting yourself." Arvin smiled sadly. "I want to live a life where I'm not a burden to anyone, especially you." Lena looked at him with a mixture of tenderness and firmness. "You are not a burden, and you never will be. Walking or not walking doesn't define your worth." For the first time since she met him, Arvin's eyes filled with emotion he didn't try to hide. "Not pain, not fear. Gratitude," he whispered. "Thank you, Lena." In the days that followed, everything changed quietly between them. Lena began learning Arvin's routine, how to help him with therapy, how to recognize the signs of weakness, how to support without taking away his independence. She never forced him to talk, but she stayed by his side. Sometimes she simply sat near him while he trained, offering silent encouragement. Arvin, in return, began opening up. He shared stories from before the accident, dreams he once had, fears he still carried. For the first time, he didn't feel like someone pretending to be strong. He felt understood. Weeks passed, and something unexpected began growing, not out of obligation, not out of pity, but out of companionship. Respect turned into trust. Trust turned into warmth. Warmth into connection. One evening, as they watched the sunset from the garden, Arvin turned to her. "You know," he said softly, "when this marriage was arranged, I thought it would be a lonely agreement. But you've given me something I didn't expect." Lena looked at him curiously. "What is that? A chance to live again? Not just survive?" Lena felt her heart lift in a way she had never felt before. She placed her hand gently on his. "We will walk this path together," she said. "With or without steps." Arvin laughed softly, light, warm, genuine. "With or without steps," he repeated. And in that moment, Lena realized something she never imagined on the day her parents asked her to marry a rich man in a wheelchair. Fate did have other plans, and those plans brought her not a perfect life, but a meaningful one, built on trust, courage, and a love that grew slowly. But surely, the story ends not with a miracle, but with a truth. Sometimes, the greatest change is not in the body, but in the heart.